other people in the community near Rochelle taking pictures of this wedge tornado, massive tornado that was rolling through, and that is the end result. Meanwhile, here we are in Rochelle, just a little bit north of the city there at Grubstakers. And this is a restaurant there, again, just north of Rochelle, where people were actually trapped in a basement. The good news, though, they all made it out and without any serious injury.
Yeah, you know, we've heard from one of the workers there and also the owner just before the break. 13 people were in the restaurant, a cook, an owner, dishwasher, 5 or 6 patrons. They were trapped there praying, crying as they're hearing this. They said it went by really quickly, but then they were stuck. They couldn't get out for 45 minutes. So then the assistant fire chief came, kind of got them out. And he said he's been a fire chief and he's been working in the fire department for 35 years, and he had never seen anything like this.
Yeah, the best part of this, though, again, that everyone made it out, and one of the reasons why, they all made it into that safe zone there in that restaurant.
In Rochelle, they all made it out at Grubsters, but not so in Fairdale, where we do have a report of 1 fatality. All right, we do have some new reports and new pictures right this very moment coming in from Fairdale. Again, in Fairdale, this is what we've heard. There is 1 death. Again, we're not sure how many missing or others are injured at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So it looks like we're seeing emergency vehicles there. It looks like an ambulance there. So again, we're just getting these pictures in from our affiliate WMAQ. Some new video feeding into us right now raw. So again, we're seeing this just as you are seeing it as well at the moment. Again, this is in Fairdale, one of the communities hit pretty hard by a massive tornado. And again, we're getting reports there, reports into the Weather Channel of 1 person dead.
Yeah, we're going to look at that, turn it, and show it to you again and have a little more information about it. And now let's just reset for a second. What we're talking about around 7 o'clock local time, about 80 miles west of Chicago, a massive wedge tornado that we watched live on the air with our storm tracker chasing it and then talking to us and then seeing the damage and the aftermath. It was unbelievable. Again, it moved through the town of Ashton, then Rochelle, and then Fairdale, Illinois. So this massive wedge tornado that we watched live moved northeast at about 45 miles per hour, and really unprecedented for this area. It seems like some of these people have never seen anything like this.
Yeah, we're certainly hearing a lot of that there from the fire chief saying that, another person who lived in the community saying that as well. So again, this is a situation, a very bad situation, no doubt, but the good news is, at least at this point, at least at that restaurant in Rochelle, everyone is okay.
Yeah, all right, let's go right to the lab now and get some expert analysis with Dr. Greg Forbes and Carl as well. And, you know, what do you guys make of what we've seen? And now, it's interesting, the restaurant damaged and destroyed, they're all out and fine. But then a whole different deal, it looks like, in Fairdale, doesn't it?
I truthfully couldn't really understand what you were asking, but certainly some very bad damage that we've seen tonight. And we've only seen the tip of that damage. I think with the dawn of light tomorrow, we'll see that kind of damage at many, many additional locations. We're not done yet tonight either. We do not have at the moment any tornado warnings, but this cold front that is marching across the country with a surface low, that surface low no doubt has played a factor in making the storms there in the northern parts of Illinois stronger than some of the others, is still rolling east. Now, that cold front, we'll come back and talk about where some of the existing storms are, but that cold front tomorrow will be coming to around the Appalachians and then marching its way into the mid-Atlantic and the southeast states. So tomorrow, I've given a severe thunderstorm outlook here for in red for southeast parts of Pennsylvania, southern New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, including Baltimore and Washington, D.C., down into the Virginia areas, the North Carolina, maybe even spotty down into the Gulf Coast states. Not every place is going to get that wind, get the severe storms, but spotty wind damage kind of along the lines of what we're probably seeing with the front tonight, and maybe all the way down into the coastal areas there of Texas and parts of Louisiana with some of these strong thunderstorms. There'll be a lot of thunderstorms. Some of them will be severe. There could even be a tornado up in that mid-Atlantic region. I believe that I've given a tornado condition index of 3 there for parts of that New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia region. Now, tonight we still have severe thunderstorms that are ongoing. All of these yellow outlined areas are severe thunderstorm warnings. Still strong, not necessarily severe thunderstorms rolling into the Chicago area, but up to the north of Champaign, Illinois, rolling from Effingham, Illinois, into the Terre Haute area. And that ultimately, if it holds together, within probably the next 2 to 3 hours, is going to roll into the Indianapolis area. These are mainly now damaging wind threats. Notice how these are becoming aligned in this I-70 area. Could be some flash flooding developed with this. Clay Park and Vigo counties under severe thunderstorm warnings, in addition to some that are farther down the line. So Indianapolis could be just before 1 a.m. Eastern time with these storms coming into you at the speed that they're currently going. Farther down the line, we see storms that coming into Mount Vernon, Illinois. Some of these beginning to get on their forward side, a little backward sea type bow echoes, kind of like what happened coming into the Chicago area. We had an unconfirmed gust out over the lake there at one of these stations of 91-mile-per-hour gusts. We aren't sure if that's correct or not. And so Edwards and Wayne County with severe thunderstorm warnings. Further down the line, a number of severe thunderstorms continuing along just ahead of the cold front, including the Carbondale area of Illinois, down to the south and east to Cape Girardeau. A possible tornado, some damage in the Cape Girardeau vicinity as that storm originally had a tornado warning. And additional storms farther to the south. So we're going to go back now to the studio.
All right, Dr. Greg, I think we're going to take a look at a couple of photos, new photos that came in from Fairdale. That was the town that was hit by the tornado earlier this evening, and difficult to see exactly what we're looking at there in Fairdale, but there we see a fair amount of damage, Dr. Greg, and we were saying earlier that based on what limited photos and video we had seen, that maybe we were looking at EF2 or higher damage here.
Yeah, that photo there that was sort of in that lavender lighting looked like it was just piles of rubble. So depending on what that was there, that could be EF3 or perhaps even stronger damage. We'll find out tomorrow as the surveys take.
Well, a tornado tears through towns in rural Illinois. This is some of the damage it left behind in the town of Fairdale.
Incredible sight to see there again. We saw this tornado live on air, and we saw it, and it was miraculous to see, but then it was very sobering to see the aftermath, and that is what you're seeing right there in Fairdale. Well, we want to bring in now from the Illinois Emergency Management Agency, James Joseph. We certainly appreciate you joining us here on the phone. We now know that there is one person confirmed dead at this point. Can you give us an update on any missing people who are around out there, or anyone who is maybe trapped?
Yeah, we have some ongoing operations right now. The Illinois State Police, along with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources Police and mutual aid agencies, they're in areas of DeKalb County and also in Rochelle, Illinois, which is in Ogle County, and they're conducting searches of neighborhoods that were impacted by the storm. So we don't have a count yet on missing persons. All the information is very new and rapidly coming in. But we do have some injuries in DeKalb County. We have at least 3 persons that were transported to local hospitals, as well as at least 4 in Ogle County and Rochelle, where a restaurant collapsed as a result of the storm, and there was persons trapped inside.
You know, is there a hospital in Rochelle? And if there is, was there damage to that hospital?
Yeah, we're working with our public health partners. There was no damage to the hospital that was in that area or the long-term care facilities. We did make that assessment, and in Rochelle, persons that were trapped in that restaurant were transported to the hospital in Rochelle.
Now, going back to Fairdale, because we've seen some of the damage there, can you give us an estimate on how much damage was received in that particular community?
Yeah, you know, the information that we have right now, and again, it's all still rapidly coming in, and we have reports of at least 25 homes that were destroyed in that area as a result of the storm. Of course, along with that, there's a number of power outages and debris that's on the roadway. So we have the governor of Illinois, Governor Rauner, activated our incident response center here at the state, and we have several partners and agencies that are out in the field working with the counties and the municipalities to assist in the ongoing efforts.
Now, in Fairdale, were those well-built structures? Are we talking a mobile home park or a different community?
Yeah, I don't have information on that yet. I apologize. It's all still coming into us.
What about other parts of the state? Was it hit at all as bad as this area?
Yeah, you know, we really saw from Clinton, Iowa, in that area, the western part of the state, right where it borders and comes in. That's where we saw the storm come in. It went straight east towards DeKalb, and then from there northeast out to McHenry County in the northeastern part of the state, and then into Wisconsin. So we saw multiple counties had reported tornadoes that had either been in the air or touched ground, but none that had the impact that we're seeing in Ogle and DeKalb.
Now, are there any places for people to go who at this point, you know, have basically lost their homes?
Yeah, absolutely. The American Red Cross has set up a shelter in the Rochelle area, and they are working to take care of the displaced residents. And they're also working in the DeKalb County area, Kirkland and Fairdale, to take care of those that are out there as well. The Red Cross is also supporting our first responders who are anticipated to be there well into the night and into tomorrow with food and other care for our first responders as well.
I mean, looking at the pictures, some of these are just devastating. Our emergency officials, how are they all getting into the town? Can they get around?
Yeah, you know, they're doing their best to get through the areas. I don't have confirmed reports or seeing all the pictures that you're seeing. I'm seeing them come up on my screen right now as well. But they are getting to the areas. They're doing it as safely as they can. Life safety for our first responders as well as the residents is the priority, and that's how they're moving through the areas right now.
All right. Well, thank you so much, James Joseph there, the director of the Illinois Emergency Management Agency. We certainly appreciate you updating us on the situation there across the state.
All right, our extended coverage continues after the break.
Well, welcome back. We continue to follow storms rumbling across the nation. The heartland of the country, a cold front now marching its way east. And boy, we've seen some big-time storms today. Massive tornado that worked its way across northern portions of Illinois, causing damage. And we now know at this point one person dead there in northern Illinois.
Yeah, you know, our extended coverage continues because our most important job here at the Weather Channel is to keep you and your family safe. And, you know, we have heard some things from the American Red Cross as well. You know, actually in Rochelle, Illinois, and in Fairdale, they have set up a shelter for the people that are homeless there as this tornado has moved through.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw some of the video there from the Fairfield area of Fairdale, I should say, of some of the damage, and incredible to see, as well as the tornado that caused it there as it was making its way from Rochelle, near Rochelle, up towards the Fairdale area. Just a massive and incredible sight to see, and we had it live right here on the Weather Channel.
All right, so let's get the very latest in the lab now with Dr. Greg Forbes. Hi, Greg.
Hey, Alexandria, and I'm here with Carl Parker. We're going to take a look at one of those videos again, the big wedge tornado, and then we'll do a little recap of some of the places that were hit by it and some of the damage reports we've got. So there, Carl, a big wedge tornado. If you ever had a video of a tornado that we would call a wedge, that's one, because it's wider up at least at the top than it is tall. So when that happens, we call it a wedge.
And what was interesting about this storm also is the way that it was lit, because a lot of times as tornadoes are approaching people, you've got light that is behind them, so they appear to be darker. In this case, the light was actually shining on the tornado from the chaser's perspective, so it had this whitish appearance, and that is the actual cloud of the tornado there.
And at the time when we were watching this live, we were seeing the traffic still going on the interstate up toward the tornado that was heading toward the interstate, I-39, and we do know now that some semis were overturned there, and then it continued along the way there and caused quite a bit of damage along the way. And we can go ahead, Carl.
Well, I don't know if you've noticed that before, but I feel like I've seen that in tornado videos many times, where trucks are just plowing right on through, almost oblivious, which is strange because you'd think they'd be really aware of what was going on with the weather.
Yeah, I think in some extent, though, their eyes are glued to the traffic ahead of them and where they're heading, and not glancing off to the side and seeing this huge wedge tornado coming. Hopefully everyone was okay along the interstate there. Let's take a look at some of the radar recap of this storm, and we'll take a look at this. Is Eric going to put this in motion here? We'll see the storm coming up toward the Lee Center, the Ashton area, and then it continues up into the Cherry Valley, the Marengo area. We're talking about areas that are off to the west of Chicago and south of the Rockford area. As a number of locations here have been struck by this tornado. We've had reports from Ashton, Ashford, we've had reports from the Rochelle area, and then continued up into the Woodstock area. Hillcrest, there's reports of large tornado. Harvard, debris, sheet metal tossed around, and then in a number of the locations in between, we've seen serious damage. We've seen damage there in Fairdale. We've seen damage in Ashton. And along the way, this track of these reports, if they're all from the same tornado, that's about a 52-mile track. They'll find out tomorrow whether or not that this was from one tornado or from a series of tornadoes across the area. So a dangerous tornado tonight, deadly tornado tonight. We'll find out the rating is probably going to be at EF2 or higher, Carl, and still some storms that are ongoing, Carl.
Yeah, that's right. We are definitely past the peak of this event, so we're looking at mostly severe thunderstorm warnings. That's not to say that we won't get any additional tornado warnings, but mostly it's going to be a damaging wind threat. And there you see the severe warnings, which now extend from just west of Indianapolis down through southeastern Illinois and down into areas just outside of Memphis, Tennessee. We're going to talk more about where these warnings are, what they mean, and what is in store for tomorrow. Could be another big day for severe weather, and we'll have the latest on that coming up in a few minutes.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Well, it's 7 o'clock this evening in northern Illinois, 80 miles west of Chicago. A massive and deadly wedge tornado plowed through about 50 miles, nearly leveling a local restaurant in Rochelle, trapping 13 people, all getting out alive. And then it went to Fairdale. Reports now of 1 fatality and numerous injuries.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of this video here. This is new video into us now, coming in from, we're not getting it rolling, but that's some of the damage. You can saw just that little one picture, some of the damage there in Fairdale, where we're getting reports of 1 person dead. All right, let's take it to the lab now. We're continuing to follow storms. We're not done yet, Carl.
No, we are not. We are past the peak in this event. We're probably not going to see much more in the way of tornado warnings. It's not impossible, but we are looking at severe thunderstorm warnings right now, extending through Illinois down into the Mississippi River Valley, also up into Michigan. We're going to begin with a look at what's happening in central Indiana. There is now a severe thunderstorm warning that is off to the west of Indianapolis. The movement on these cells is off to the northeast, about 40-45 miles per hour, and a lot of lightning, as you can see there, so quite a light show on the way. And there's the severe warning for Indianapolis, and these cells are going to be coming in pretty short order. Clay Park and Vigo counties under severe warning until 11:45, and we can track that out for you. There's a little bit of a bow here. You see that, actually a pretty pronounced bow. So right here you've got a calm head. There's actually a circulation which we'll need to watch, because sometimes these circulations can develop tornadoes. And what you've got with this is a surge of strong wind that is going forward here. It's going to be coming right along 70 and getting into Sugar Ridge before very long, and then will eventually come up and into Indianapolis. So there's a look at the timing for you. Taking this into Greencastle right around the top of the hour, then Danville at 12:27, 12:50, Wayne and 12:57 getting into Indianapolis. And we want to take you now into Indianapolis. Our Dave Malkoff is there right now. And Dave, last night you saw an incredible storm in Wichita, and in not too long from now you'll be able to see another one.
Yeah, maybe at 1 a.m. It is raining right now in Terre Haute, and over this area we've got a severe thunderstorm watch and a tornado watch until 2 a.m. So it may start raining at 1 a.m., but for right now we haven't seen any rain so far, but we have seen a lot of wind. The storm we saw last night was pretty brilliant. As you said, we did see a lot of lightning, which was cloud-to-cloud lightning inside that storm. Now, I want to ask you, Carl, the thing that we were talking about yesterday was how lightning and thunder are connected. What I was wondering about is that we weren't hearing any thunder whatsoever, even though those lightning bolts were directly above us. Is there a reason why that audio from the thunderstorm wouldn't get down from the lightning column down to us?
Yeah, well, you know, distance definitely has something to do with it. I mean, generally speaking, when you're talking about being on the order of 10 miles or more away, then it's too far. And so there's this misnomer about heat lightning. People call it heat lightning when there's a storm on the horizon. They see a lot of lightning, but they're not hearing anything. All that is just lightning that is so far away that you're not hearing the thunder. But as to why you wouldn't hear it overhead, I'm not sure, because I've seen that very same thing. They're called anvil crawlers, and they reach out overhead, and you do eventually hear the thunder. It takes some time, but at least when I've seen it, I've heard the thunder from that.
Yeah, that's interesting. There is no such thing as heat lightning, but we were seeing it. Maybe it was an optical illusion, because Kansas is very flat and you can see for miles and miles. So maybe that was 10, 15 miles away from us, but it looked like it was very close just because of the flatness of the plains right there.
Yeah, and you know, it's just amazing the visibility out there, and you can see these anvil crawlers as they flutter from storm to storm. And we were also talking about how thunder develops, which is really interesting because lightning is so incredibly hot. It's 50,000 degrees. What it does is it literally explodes the air that's immediately around that lightning channel, which, by the way, is not much thicker than that. It's about as thick as a pen or a pencil, and it explodes the air, and it's that shock wave that creates that sound of thunder, and that's why when it's really close to you, you hear it very high-pitched, sort of a crack, and then when it's farther away, you hear more of a rumble because those sound waves have had an opportunity to stretch out as they are traveling.
So you're actually hearing the bottom of the column before you hear the top of the column. That's why you hear that boom, rumble, 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 all till the way to the top, because all those sound waves are pushing through the atmosphere and they're being compressed by the atmosphere. So that's much further away from the top of the column to the bottom. So that one sound is just the one lightning column, but you hear different parts of the column. That's really interesting, and that's something we're going to experience at about 1 a.m. here in Indianapolis.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. You initially get that sound that's right next to you, and the sound waves are still fairly close together, so you're getting the crack sound, but then as you go up through the column, they begin to stretch out, and that's when the sound gets a lot lower. Well, thank you so much, Dave. We're going to take a look right now at what's going on farther south and west, and we've got more warnings to tell you about. One of them right along 64 there in parts of Illinois, and not very far away from Mount Vernon, so that's Edwards and Wayne counties under warning until 10:45, and the concern here is going to be 60-mile-per-hour wind along with large hail. Then we'll go farther southward and down along 57, more warnings in southern parts of Illinois. Got one for Johnson and Pope County, Franklin, Saline, Williamson County, also under severe warning. Eventually, this is going to make its way into Evansville, Indiana. And then even more warnings now farther along towards the south, near Cape Girardeau. Got a big mass of storms, a big line of storms. And here, too, we saw a little spin up within this line. And that's certainly still a possibility, though we'll see less of that kind of thing as we go through the night. Alexander, Mississippi, Scott counties under severe warning. That's going to be making its way towards Cairo there, and eventually perhaps towards Paducah as well. A lot of heavy rain, a lot of lightning with these storms. Sarah, maybe we can take a look at the lightning in a moment. And also you see the flash flood warnings there. We've gotten as much as 3 to 5 inches of rain in southern parts of Arkansas with this big mass of rain. And now a thin line coming right down through the Lone Star State, and there is a severe warning. That is now west of 45 and not very far away from Waco. That is Falls, Limestone, McLennan counties under warning until 11:30. All right, so let's get into the forecast for tomorrow and show you what we're going to be facing tomorrow. Now, we will see less of a tornado threat. That doesn't mean no tornado threat. Torcon values around 3 in the mid-Atlantic region. Mostly it's going to be damaging wind with some hail, and that includes Philly and Baltimore and D.C. Probably through the afternoon, and then towards the evening we'll watch some of those storms drive down into parts of the southeast. And there's always the possibility that you'll see a tornado, and oftentimes, especially in eastern North Carolina, you've got little sea breeze boundaries that interact, and you get some rotation in some of these storms. And there you see the stronger storms that drop down into South Texas as well. So Corpus and Houston could be a busy day for you as well. Alex, back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Carl. You know, a lot of golfers are tuned in. You know, Carl talked about those storms dropping south, including Augusta, and of course the Masters is being played right now. So certainly they have their eyes to the sky too for the potential for some severe weather in the afternoon and evening.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other threats that we are going to be dealing with is the threat for flooding. That is also something that we'll watch here throughout the Ohio Valley. Look at what we've seen. This is over the past 7 days or so. We have seen quite a bit of rain, 5 to 8 inches out there for you from Louisville stretching east. So you add a little bit more and you could run into some problems. So this is what we'll deal with. We've got that moisture in there, and now we're going to see our cold front begin to swing its way through the area. So hopefully that thing can move quickly enough that we don't see storms rolling over the same spots over and over again. But through tomorrow, there'll be some pockets of areas that could see 1 to 2 inches of rain, and that's why we do have at least the potential for some flash flooding. Here's how it'll play out as we head through the rest of tonight. There it is, our cold front marching east and spreading with it the showers and storms heading in towards your Friday evening. We start to see it now finally making its way towards the East Coast. So it looks like a wet evening commute. Baltimore, Philly, even getting up towards New York City.
All right, so many concerns, of course, from tornadoes to flooding, as all has potential.
Yeah, that's right. In our extended live coverage, that continues tonight.
It was bad. I mean, it was the whole town was just gone, and I did all I could to help people and rescue people. And
share with viewers what you told me a short while ago about going from door to door and actually finding bodies. We haven't had much confirmation. Just we know that one, if not many more, people did die here, and you saw that.
Yeah, I seen a few, and they were a lot of people that were hurt, and I did the best I could to help people, and then more people were starting to show up, and yeah, it was pretty bad. So I've never seen anything like it.
What you're hearing there, someone who had to deal with this tornado that rolled its way through Fairdale. And now what we're looking at is some video here of officials walking through now of the town of Fairdale, and you can see the destruction.
Yeah, you know, they were touring the path here. Now, of course, around 7 o'clock this evening, this wedge tornado tore through this town of 9,500. We do have confirmation of one fatality, although you heard what that guy said, so we'll have to see what happens. Numerous injuries, though. 25 homes obviously damaged or destroyed. And look at this car. I mean, Alex, look at the damage and the ferocity of this.
Yeah, you see in that windshield there, it looks like it's wood, plywood, whatever it might be. Looks like a missile that shot right into that windshield. That's what can happen with these tornadoes, just fierce winds turning these objects into projectile missiles.
Yeah, you know, it looks as though this deadly wedge tornado plowed through about 50 miles, of course, going through Fairdale as well, leveling a local restaurant called Grubsters in Rochelle, Illinois, then to Fairdale, which is this. So we're just taking this tour. It's about 2 minutes, and you can see, and when you can hear her just saying, oh my God, looking around at all of this rubble and destruction. I mean, we'll know tomorrow the damage, the destruction, because the National Weather Service will go out tomorrow and then label it an EF2 and EF3 based upon the worst destruction in the past. So, you know, we saw destruction earlier, and Greg Forbes said potentially an EF2, and then looking at more, he said, maybe an EF3 or 4. So you look at the worst destruction, and then thus it gets labeled that, you know, confirmed EF3 or 4.
Absolutely. So again, in the town of Fairdale here, confirmed 1 dead, but could be more. We're going to be working on that. At this point, in terms of how many are missing, that is still unclear. So that number is still to come. They're conducting searches of some of the neighborhoods there that were impacted again by this tornado that raged its way into Fairdale.
All right, now take a look at this. Okay, so this is Fairdale, but Rochelle, Illinois hit before this. And look at this side-by-side picture. Okay, on the left side is before 7 o'clock tonight. And this is this restaurant called Grubstakers, right. We heard from the owner, and of course someone there as well. There were 13 people in the restaurant at the time. The cook, an owner, dishwasher, 5 or 6 customers as well. They were trapped in the basement, praying and crying. We heard from Melissa Jamie, and she was one of the workers that were there. She said it was frightening. They were stuck there for 45 minutes. To the right is after the tornado moved through. But actually, the police and fire rescue came and got them from the basement after 45 minutes. They said it was paralyzingly scary. But you can see the roof that has been damaged, and of course so much of the restaurant. Miraculously in Rochelle, 13 people all getting out safely there. This is courtesy of 102.3 The Coyote. So thank you very much. Certainly an interesting perspective, Alex, right?
Absolutely, no doubt about it. And the great part about that is the fact that all those people who were in that restaurant managed to get into a safe area. And that is a huge reason for why all of them made it out. And we continue to follow storms here this late evening. There's Chicago. Finally, now these storms are now raced on off towards your east. So you're now into the clear there in and around Chi-Town, which is some great news, but not the case as we head farther south. Tracking this line of storms now just south of the Terre Haute area. Severe thunderstorm warning here on this particular part of the line of the storm. So watch out, damaging wind. That's going to be the big threat there. And also as we work our way now just south and east of Carbondale, line of storms. Severe thunderstorm warning there. Actually had some reports of trees being uprooted around Cape Girardeau and heavy downpours south of sirens, an eerie thing to hear, a scary thing to hear, and that was what was going on in northern Illinois. This was earlier today, this evening in Ashton, Illinois. And you can see the reason the sirens were going off, that tornado that was rolling on through, a very powerful and destructive tornado that made its way across the northern part of the state.
All right, so it started out in Ashton about 6 o'clock, 6:30 or so, made its way to Rochelle, Illinois, then to Fairdale, Illinois, traveling across I-88, northeast to north, traveling then up I-39, and we captured it all on tape. Take a look at this. This was from our storm chaser, Matt Salo. Matt, thank you so much. Doing it safely. You know, Matt said, we talked to him live on the air a few times, and we watched this live, this massive half-mile wide wedge tornado, meaning it's wider than it is taller, traveling northeast at about 45 miles per hour. That to the right of your screen, kind of right in the foreground above the world, northern Illinois, that's I-39. And look at these trucks just coming and going without any care. It's unbelievable. And there are reports, and there were at the time, of semis overturned, of course, on this I-39 as well. So chaser Matt Salo said in 23 years of chasing, he had never seen anything as massive, which really should have been the first heads up that the damage and the destruction of this really would have been voracious. And we've certainly seen that since.
We certainly have, because as you mentioned, this thing didn't stop in Rochelle. It continued to work its way across the northern part of the state and eventually made its way towards Fairdale. And this is the aftermath now, looking at sort of the walkthrough now from some of the officials that were going through to check out some of the damage here, and getting word of 25 homes destroyed, at least there for us in the Fairdale area. Number of power outages, as you can imagine. We also have word that of at least one person dead. In terms of others missing or trapped, no word on that. That is still unclear. That number is yet to be determined. But again, this is a bad situation. I mean, you can see, look at the damage here to this vehicle.
Oh, and you know, the Rockford Fire Department is there. They've reported, listen to this, every structure in the town is damaged to some degree. Now, we're talking about a town of about 9,500 people. So, I mean, can you imagine the town destroyed? And you can look at this. And of course, tomorrow, the National Weather Service will go out to Fairdale. And it looks as though our Dr. Greg Forbes thinks potentially this wedge tornado maybe went on a 50-mile trek. And so the National Weather Service will go out in the light of day, look at all the damage, and then determine its category, be it an EF3, an EF4, and that's determinable upon the greatest damage that was seen. So they find the worst damage, and then it gets to that elevated level.
Absolutely. So we'll get the numbers on that. But again, right now, it is a time to figure out who is still safe and who needs to be rescued at this point there across the Fairdale area. So we certainly got some word about what was going on and the situation that took place. Let's take a listen.
I helped them as much as I could. I asked them, you know, if there was other people near them or if they had family members that were hurt. And then I just went from one person that was yelling to the next.
And what were they yelling? Were they asking to help?
For help.
Get other people out, to get their animals out?
Yep, animals, family members, all of it.
Unfortunately, you saw something you didn't want to see, at least a couple times.
I found a deceased lady and her husband. I helped him, and yeah, it was devastating.
All righty, certainly devastating. But, you know, I think Carl Parker, our storm specialist, really said it best. These severe storms kind of have a peak, and we really hit that peak with this wedge tornado, and things are certainly now settling down. So no tornado warnings, just some severe thunderstorm watches, some severe thunderstorm warnings. But it looks as though kind of the worst is over, although we certainly do have storms around. And tomorrow, this whole storm system shifts eastward toward the eastern seaboard. And here's a look at where we're going to see it. Of course, tonight, and boy, our Dr. Greg Forbes was certainly on the money with this. Yesterday, his TORCON, that Tornado Conditions Index we talked so much about, 60% chance of Illinois, where we've seen the worst of it, a 50% chance, a 60% chance within 50-mile radius. And boy, you know, he really was right on it. All right, so as we head toward tomorrow, the moist flow is there. It looks like the rotation potential tomorrow won't be there as much, so it's not out of the question to have a tornado tomorrow along the eastern seaboard. But it looks as though very strong winds and damaging hail will be the biggest factors. So earlier in the day, we're going to see it here. Philadelphia, Washington, Baltimore. The Masters is being played. Augusta National certainly could be impacted later in the afternoon and toward the early evening. So a lot to watch. Of course, our continuing coverage will continue after the break, and stay with you all night to keep you safe. Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Certainly what a night it has been. The worst tornado outbreak we've seen thus far this year. And really, it seems as though it's this one massive half-mile wide wedge tornado that roared through northern Illinois. It looks as though potentially maybe a 50-mile radius, and the damage and the destruction really has been incredible. It's about 80 miles west of Chicago, to give you a little perspective of where it is in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly the season started off slow, but now it is in full swing. And here we are looking at that tornado. Incredible view. This is near the Rochelle area, and you can see it spinning and rotating. Unbelievable sight, and we had this on live this evening as it was making its way through. Again, you can see it just clearly picturesque sight of that tornado working its way through the area there, spinning and rotating its way from the Rochelle area and eventually making its way up towards the Fairdale area, where we also have some video of some of the incredible damage there.
Yeah, you know, this massive tornado we saw move through, and can you imagine, we watched this live on the air, and you know, when you this goes tighter, you can see these farming communities, and you can see the farms that we've seen. So this tornado outbreak continues. Of course, this is another picture from Franklin Grove, Illinois, which is where it would have been before it made its move through Ashton and continue on its trek. You can see certainly like rope tornado, certainly kind of just a mirror of what it will become as this massive wedge tornado later on.
Yeah, so basically the beginning stages here for you, and you can clearly see it there. Much smaller than what you saw in that previous video here, but again, this is before it made its way towards Rochelle. Again, this is in the Franklin Grove area in Illinois. Seeing it going pretty much from right to left, the tornado they're doing so. And then once it made its way from Franklin Grove, now you can see it's a little bit bigger. We're a little closer, so that may be why we're seeing it a little bit bigger, but now moving into the Ashton area. And at this point, sirens were going off as well. I'm not sure if we can hear that in the video right now, but that was the case ongoing there. And there it is. Take a listen. Scary, eerie, no doubt about it, to hear that. But again, the reason why they were going off is because what you're seeing right there, that tornado that was moving through Ashton.
So from Ashton to Rochelle to Fairdale, Illinois, that where we do have confirmation of one fatality. To Rochelle we go, and you can see this is, of course, from our chaser whom we were with on the phone. And he said in his 23 years of chasing, he had never seen anything as massive as this. What you're looking at are those cars coming along on Interstate 39, just moving through, and you'll even see them going toward the tornado.
Yeah, you could imagine a few of those were probably some chases. Others, maybe folks who really didn't know what they were doing. And again, it's a sight to see that tornado there. And then it made its way off towards the Fairdale area. That's about 20 miles to the northeast of Rochelle. This is the aftermath, the damage taking place. You're looking at a walkthrough now as officials were walking through and showing us some of the damage that was going on there. 25 homes destroyed, a number of power outages as well, and debris, no doubt about it, strewn all over the roadways there. We're getting a word of one person, at least one person dead. As far as missing people, that number still yet to be determined. But look at that into that windshield projectile.
You know,
that's what happens. The
Rockford Fire Department was there, and they said almost every building in the town is either damaged or destroyed. A town of about 9,400 people. And take a listen.
I helped them as much as I could. I asked them, you know, if there was other people near them or if they had family members that were hurt. And then I just went from one person that was yelling to the next.
And what were they yelling? Were they asking to help?
For help.
Get other people out, to get their animals out?
Yep, animals, family members, all of it.
Unfortunately, you saw something you didn't want to see, at least a couple times.
I found a deceased lady and her husband. I helped him, and yeah, it was devastating.
Well, certainly devastating, no question about it. All right, so with the latest on where these storms are going and kind of if we have hit the peak, let's go to the lab with Carl Parker.
Yeah, no doubt about that. We're definitely past the peak of this severe weather event. We may get an additional tornado warning or two, but we haven't seen one for a while, and mostly it's going to be severe thunderstorm warnings going forward, and we're even seeing less of those. Now, we want to take you down into Indiana and show you the cells that have been coming into the western part of the state. There was a warning that was off to the west of Indianapolis, and that has now been allowed to expire, but these cells are producing a spectacular amount of lightning. Look at this. With that collection, that little line segment there, you're talking about somewhere around 2,000 strikes. Look at that, 2,334 strikes in the last 15 minutes with that little line segment that extends from just west of Indianapolis and down into Terre Haute. We want to go out live now to Dave Malkoff. He is in Indianapolis, and Dave, you saw a fantastic light show last night in Wichita as a tornado came through, and it looks like another one on the way for you in Indianapolis.
Yeah, about an hour away, we're at the Ransom Place neighborhood, a historic neighborhood just north of downtown. And you can probably see just a little bit of light of the Chase Bank building over my shoulder. It is getting windy here. We're waiting for that storm to come over our west side in about an hour, maybe 1 a.m. But the watches, the tornado watches and the severe thunderstorm watch does extend until 2 a.m. So we've got a full couple hours for those watches to expire. So a lot of people watching the skies, even though it is nighttime and the sun has gone down, so it's not radiating the atmosphere to make it destabilize, they still have a little bit of time for those storms to form. Now, Carl, it is very unlikely that a tornado can form at night, but it's not unheard of, right?
Absolutely not. When you've got a really dynamic situation, you can have a lot of lift in the atmosphere that can overwhelm the fact that you're not getting as much lift from the daytime heating. And certainly we've seen a lot of nocturnal tornadoes, especially in parts of the deep south where the atmosphere is generally more buoyant. But in this particular case, we're not thinking that there's going to be a real significant tornado threat overnight tonight. Dave, thank you so much. I want to quickly...
You know what?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, just as you were speaking, I just saw our first flash of lightning here and our first clap of thunder. So we're getting into it right here in Indianapolis.
All right, on the way, and we'll talk to you shortly, Dave. Thank you so much. And let's take a look once again at the radar picture here. And again, a tremendous amount of lightning on the way there in Bloomington and Indianapolis. And Sarah, let's look at the regular radar. I want to show folks also that there is a rotating cell here in the northern part of this line. Right in here, if you watch this carefully, you notice some of the cloud elements are moving off in a counterclockwise fashion, just like that around that cell. So that's a rotating comma head with a little bow coming out of it, which means that strong wind is going to be making its way over into Martinsville before very long. There are a couple of warnings farther south as well, and we'll see some additional severe thunderstorm warnings tonight. And then tomorrow, that severe weather threat will extend from Philly and Baltimore and D.C. down through the Carolinas. More on that coming up in just a few minutes as our severe weather coverage continues.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Well, this is it. At about 7 o'clock this evening in northern Illinois, 80 miles west of Chicago, a massive and deadly wedge tornado plowed through about 50 miles. And this is what it did, nearly leveling a local restaurant called Grubstakers in Rochelle, Illinois, trapping 13 people. Believe it or not, they all got out alive with help from the fire department. The 13 people in the restaurant, the cook, an owner, dishwasher, and about 5 or 6 patrons. They were trapped, you know, and we've spoken, you're going to hear for one of the women that were in there. She said, we were praying and crying. They were trying to get out, and they were stuck in the basement for 45 minutes. And then the fire department came and took them out. So an incredible sight, and this is what was happening after that, of course. Local firefighters going in to assess the damage, and you can see really nearly level. The side or two of this restaurant is still standing. It's unbelievable that anyone got out alive, but they certainly did. But when you see the damage and the destruction from Rochelle, Illinois, and then farther east toward Fairdale, Illinois, where this tornado next made its mark. Well, Melissa Jamie was one of the women rescued from there, and let's listen to her and talk about and hear from her about how incredible an event it was.
looked out the window and I saw it, and it was huge. You know, it was huge, and it was coming right for us. And at that moment, Ava just grabbed me, and Ava's the owner, grabbed me, and she said, you know, just get to the basement. And she and I were the first ones down there, so we didn't see a whole heck of a lot. So, but I know Sal that works there, he's the cook and co-manager. He was responsible for getting the patrons to the basement. So yeah, I didn't see a whole heck of a lot, but
how are you feeling right now?
I'm in shock. So I'm in shock. I've got no job and no car, so it's scary. So, but I'm glad I'm alive, and there was, you know, everybody down there was so supportive. Everybody was healthy. Everybody was, nobody was injured. So everybody was praying, and every loved one that we were able to get a hold of, everybody was okay. So it's just a shock. That's all I can say.
You know, she said she has no job and she has no car. Her job, she worked at the restaurant behind her, and no car, because that was her car. You could see kind of in that tight shot, the car behind her just destroyed. You know, when you look at this, Alex, and you hear from these guys, why we're here is to keep people safe. And the fact that the owner knew what to do, grabbed all 13 people, went into the basement and saved their lives. They really did. And that's why we're here, to show you what's to come, right? And how dangerous. We saw this on the radar, and we've been tracking it. And then it verifies in such an incredible way.
Absolutely. So great indeed that they knew what to do. And that is the key when we're talking about these kinds of events. Preparation, and then knowing what to do and putting it into action. And we may have to do that again tomorrow, because we'll keep the threat for the storms going. Now we'll be watching our cold front marching its way towards the East Coast. Ahead of that, moisture flowing its way on in from the Gulf of Mexico. Those winds coming in out of the low levels, generally out of the southwest, the same direction as the upper levels. So there may not be as much shear or turning of the winds with height here for us as we head into tomorrow. So the tornado risk may not be as high, but we still have the risk for strong and damaging winds and hail. And look who is in line, Augusta. You know what's taking place this week, the Masters. And that could be certainly something to watch, as a lot of folks are out there, the Patriots. We'll be back in just a bit. Well, here we are checking in on tornado damage. This is from earlier today in the town of Fairdale, and you can see it. I mean, unbelievable. We were talking about a massive tornado rolling its way across northern Illinois, making its way pretty much from Ashton towards Rochelle, and then eventually up to Fairdale. And this is the damage that took place there. Confirmed one dead in the Fairdale area. And the structures there, Rockford, the fire department, they were actually in town to help out the situation in Fairdale. And the fire department, they're saying every single one of the approximately 50 structures in town has been damaged.
Earlier tonight, we talked to the Illinois Emergency Management about the damage and destruction.
We do have some injuries in DeKalb County. We have at least 3 persons that were transported to local hospitals, as well as at least 4 in Ogle County in Rochelle, where a restaurant collapsed as a result of the storm, and there was persons trapped inside.
You know, is there a hospital in Rochelle? And if there is, was there damage to that hospital?
Yeah, we're working with our public health partners. There was no damage to the hospital that was in that area or to the long-term care facilities. We did make that assessment, and in Rochelle, persons that were trapped in that restaurant were transported to the hospital in Rochelle.
Now, going back to Fairdale, because we've seen some of the damage there, can you give us an estimate on how much damage was received in that particular community?
Yeah, you know, the information that we have right now, and again, it's all still rapidly coming in, and we have reports of at least 25 homes that were destroyed in that area as a result of the storm. Of course, along with that, there's a number of power outages and debris that's on the roadway. So we have the governor of Illinois, Governor Rauner, activated our incident response center here at the state, and we have several partners and agencies that are out in the field working with the counties and the municipalities to assist in the ongoing efforts.
Now, in Fairdale, were those well-built structures? Are we talking a mobile home park or a different community?
Yeah, I don't have information on that yet. I apologize. It's all still coming into us.
What about other parts of the state? Was it hit at all as bad as this area?
Yeah, you know, we really saw from Clinton, Iowa, in that area, the western part of the state, right where it borders and comes in. That's where we saw the storm come in. It went straight east towards DeKalb, but then from there northeast out to McHenry County in the northeastern part of the state, and then into Wisconsin. So we saw multiple counties had reported tornadoes that had either been in the air or touched ground, but none that had the impact that we're seeing in Ogle and DeKalb.
Now, are there any places for people to go who at this point, you know, have basically lost their homes?
Yeah, absolutely. The American Red Cross has set up a shelter in the Rochelle area, and they are working to take care of the displaced residents, and they're also working in the DeKalb County area, Kirkland and Fairdale, take care of those that are out there as well. The Red Cross is also supporting our first responders who are anticipated to be there well into the night and into tomorrow with food and other care for our first responders as well.
I mean, looking at the pictures, some of these are just devastating. Our emergency officials, how are they all getting into the town? Can they get around?
Yeah, you know, they're doing their best to get through the areas. I don't have confirmed reports or seeing all the pictures that you're seeing. I'm seeing them come up on my screen right now as well. But they are getting to the areas. They're doing it as safely as they can. Life safety for our first responders as well as the residents is the priority, and that's how they're moving through the areas right now.
Wow, well, there you have it. Getting word on Illinois and some of the issues taking place, particularly in the northern part of the state.
Yeah, really. At 7 o'clock this evening, this one wedge tornado, maybe a half a mile wide, seems, and we're looking at pictures there, and we had this is a photo. You know, we had this image and we had the video of it live on the air as it was happening, and, you know, it really was incredible. Potentially a half a mile wide, and it's a wedge tornado because, of course, it's wider than it is taller.
Yeah, it was a sight to see, no doubt about it. And then, of course, the sobering sight was the damage in the aftermath. And again, that taking place, we saw some of the pictures in Fairdale. We'll be back in just a minute.
Well, take a look at this. Storm chaser Matt Salo certainly was in the right place at the right time and had all our attention. We were riveted to this live on the air. We were watching this. We are in northern Illinois, about 80 miles west of Chicago. This massive wedge tornado you see front and center in your screen, potentially about a half a mile wide, roared through these little towns and farms, about 50 miles, leaving damage and destruction. And you're looking at I-39, that road, that interstate still. The cars continuing to come. Can you imagine being in this truck on the side of the road, watching this in front of you? Let's hear from my witness who had that experience.
I was in my truck driving here to come get some dinner and saw the tornado. I jumped out of my truck, climbed in a ditch, and then I just watched the tornado pull the semi, flip it around, destroy Grubstakers, the house across the street, and all the houses down. Having been through Hurricane Ivan and Katrina, I am actually a certified first responder, but I'm not affiliated with any fire department. But I came in, I cleared all the vehicles, made sure everybody was okay. Other people had stopped to help out, and I was just, blown away by the sheer terror of everything.
Incredible. Well, here we are checking in on sort of the side-by-side before and after on the left. That is before, again, the restaurant Grubstakers there in Rochelle. On the right, that is the same restaurant, but after the tornado rolled on through, and you can clearly see the damage that took place there. And at that point, we were talking about 13 or so people who were actually trapped in the basement. They did the exact thing you're supposed to do. They got into that safe zone, lowest portion of the home or that building, and they were in the basement seeking that shelter, and that is probably what saved all of their lives because they all made it out safely.
Can you only imagine? The cook, also the dishwasher, the owner, patrons who were there dining, went into the basement, and really the owner said, let's get into the basement, essentially saved their lives.
Well, welcome back to a special coverage of severe weather outbreak across the central states. The images, both incredible and awe-inspiring.
All right, this is what we know right now. One person has died in Fairdale, Illinois, after this massive tornado blew through. Overall, at least 8 tornadoes were reported today across Iowa and Illinois.
And there were nearly 300 reports of severe weather across at least 16 states. Now get this, over the last 2 days, there have been 607 reports of severe weather.
All right, but right now, tornado watches are still in effect until 2 a.m. Eastern in places like Indianapolis.
And our extended live coverage continues here for us tonight. And we want to find out how things are faring across the middle of the country because storms are still rumbling on through. We've got our storm specialist, Carl Parker, who is in the lab tracking what's happening.
Hey, Alex, we're going to get into some of that storm tracking in just a moment. But first, I want to show you the video of the storm that hit Fairdale earlier tonight. And this is a look at a pretty long view of this storm. So the tornado is what we call a wedge tornado, meaning that it is wider than it is tall. And you see how it's got that sort of a wedge shape right in there. And then this larger tube is the wall cloud. And that is basically the bottom of the vortex, the big rotating updraft that is within the cloud. And then the tornado emanates from that. But you can very clearly see that right there, that large area of spinning cloud there. And it's from that that you get the tornado. And then when you look very closely, you can see that there is really rapid motion within that tornado. And most likely, we were looking at what are called multiple vortices, which means that they're basically funnels that are rotating about each other. And when you think about how the wind would change, the direction would change really rapidly when you have that going on. It's extremely violent when you've got a multiple vortex tornado, and you can have just massive damage, which it's exactly what we saw across parts of Illinois tonight. All right, so let's get into some of what happened here and talk about the mechanics of all this. We had this very powerful upper low that came across the east, and that's going to be moving into the mid-Atlantic region tomorrow. So tomorrow what we're going to see is mostly a damaging wind threat, but there certainly could be some tornadoes. We've got a Torcon of 3 that's centered around eastern North Carolina. Stronger storms also possible across the Gulf Coast and right down into deep South Texas. And again, that powerful upper low that caused all this weather today is the one that's going to be moving into those areas tomorrow. There it is right there. That's going to head east. And look at the explosion of the high cloud that developed right in there with those strong storms. A lot of very strong wind aloft combined with warm and humid air and some colder air aloft, and that set the stage for these huge number of severe weather reports, talking about 326 reports now of severe weather, 200 hail reports, and we've got number of heavy rain reports as well. And there you see the tornado reports, one around St. Louis, but most of them in northern Illinois. There's a look at the reports, 21 reports. Now that doesn't mean that we necessarily got 21 tornadoes. It may not be that at all. In fact, oftentimes you get multiple reports out of the same tornado, but certainly it was a very busy day there across northern Illinois in particular. Right now things are settling down a bit. There's a look at the radar recap, and you've got some ongoing storms there across parts of Indiana, and now no warnings, but an awful lot of lightning with these cells as they come into the I-70 corridor, and we saw a tremendous amount of lightning with these. We'll go ahead and query this. So from Indianapolis on southward into Bloomington, that little line segment there in the last 15 minutes has produced 1,400 strikes of lightning. So keep in mind as that moves in, it's going to be pretty hairy for a while there. You want to make sure you stay away from electrical equipment that is corded, as well as any plumbing. Even just washing the dishes can be dangerous when a storm that is that electrical comes through. Still have some heavy rain here coming up into southern parts of Indiana, but again, no warnings on these cells. So we are definitely past the peak of this severe weather event, towards the tail end of it, at least this round, but you're going to get another round tomorrow. And here in Arkansas, we've got some flash flood warnings because we've had storms running over the same areas hour after hour. You can see that very heavy rain there that is now south of Little Rock and near Pine Bluff. So that is the newer flash flood warning right along 530 as the individual cells are running one past another from west to east, and the axis of that heaviest rain is not changing very much. That is a flash flood warning for Arkansas, Grant, and Jefferson counties going until 2:30 in the morning, and we'll see additional very heavy rain across a good part of the deep south tonight as that continues to move on through. So another big day tomorrow potentially. Again, it's mostly going to be a damaging wind threat, but some major metros getting involved, including Philly, Baltimore, and D.C., and then down into Richmond and Raleigh. Could be busy in all of those areas by tomorrow afternoon. Back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Carl. You've done such an awesome job all night, really getting us to understand what's actually happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And meanwhile, we work our way through the Midwest. Line of storms getting very, very close to Indianapolis. Here's a live look at how things are faring for us right now. And again, getting very, very close. And the lightning is in the area right now. And that's where Dave Malkoff has been all night long. So let's turn to him with the very latest from the Circle City.
We're in the historic Ransom Park neighborhood just north of downtown Indianapolis. You hear that? That means the storm is coming our way. That is a big thunderclap from a lightning strike that is pushing west of us towards us. That's the same system that came from the south that is pushing towards us right now. A lot of people in this area are on high alert because they did see what happened in Illinois. It is less likely we will get a tornado in this area, but a tornado watch does extend until 2 a.m. here in Indianapolis. I'm Dave Malkoff. Back to you guys.
All right, so they're just getting it. You can certainly see by the radar the storms and all the lightning headed toward Indianapolis.
Yeah, absolutely. Good news, at least right now, not severe, but still lightning dangerous. And of course, could be talking some heavy downpours. We've got more extended live coverage next.
Well, the worst tornado outbreak thus far this year. A massive wedge tornado rolled through Fairdale, and look at some of the damage. Incredible pictures. You know, Grubstaker's restaurant in Rochelle, Illinois. This is northern Illinois, about 80 miles west of Chicago, when this massive tornado moved through at about 7 o'clock tonight. One of the restaurants, Grubstaker's, 13 people were in the restaurant at the time, trapped in the basement. There was a cook, an owner, dishwasher, 5 or 6 patrons were in there. They were praying and crying. We talked to one of the employees, Melissa Jamie, and she told us they were in there so scared, stuck in the basement for 45 minutes. Listen to one of those that was in there at the time.
I'm standing outside of Grubstaker's, where a tornado demolished the building. I'm standing right now with the co-owner, Saul, if he wants to join me. He has been the owner for 8 years and has worked here for 9 years. Saul, can you tell me what happened?
So what happened over here is, I'm always back in the kitchen to cooking. When I see the tornado, they come all the way to this side. So I kind of everybody is scared. All this happening, so what I do at that moment, I took some people in the basement down there, and I know you guys can see the hole right there, to try to all those people safe. And so there's much about the body, too much about the people, and everything.
When did you guys know a tornado was coming straight towards you?
Well, when I find out the tornado is going, almost I want to say about a quarter mile away, when it's so dark, very window, they're throwing branches and dust and everywhere. That's when I say they got to go do something to the people down there in the basement. Yeah.
And how many people were down there with you?
It's around about 13 people down there. So they have a few girls there, and they have a dishwasher and waitresses too. And try all the people come down because they have to kind of worry about it and scared too.
Who wouldn't be scared, right? Oh, my goodness. All right, now this is Rochelle, Illinois. This is where the restaurant Grubstaker's is, and just some incredible pictures, Alex.
It is incredible, and incredible that everyone made it out without any serious injury there. The local police telling us that basically there were no reports of any major injuries, just a few minor ones, and they were taken to the hospital in their own private vehicles, so no ambulances were dispatched there. And again, a testament to the folks there thinking quick and getting into that basement there in that restaurant. That is probably what saved their lives, by taking action there. When they saw that tornado coming, they seek shelter, like we tell you to do, got into that lowermost floor of the home, or in that case, the structure they were in, that restaurant, and that is why they are safe. So fantastic news there, no doubt about it. They're coming in out of Rochelle, that everyone, at least in that restaurant, made it out alive.
It's amazing, Alex, when you see these pictures. Look at these trailers just flipped over. So 102.3 The Coyote giving us these pictures. It's really unbelievable. You know, what we've seen with the severe potential today, certainly seen numerous tornadoes, and of course some really extreme ones like this one. But we're also going to see severe weather, believe it or not, on the weekend ramp up once again in the Midwest. So here's what we're going to see. The moisture, same old game, right? Returning from the north. I mean, we do see tornadoes the greatest month is May, but April is the second month with the greatest number of tornadoes, and actually the third greatest tornado outbreaks in the country have all happened in April. So we certainly have it. And why? Because, you know, the sun is warmer, the angle of the sun, all the moisture's coming up, and of course kind of we've got this contrast of colder air still present, and then of course all this warm moist air coming up, and along this front once again the same old song and dance. So here's a look at Sunday again. Scattered storms in Minneapolis, Des Moines, Kansas City through St. Louis as well, bringing in Chicago on Sunday. As we move towards Sunday night, the axis of this shifts a little bit farther eastward. You can see still St. Louis, but now we get into the Ohio Valley, bringing in Cincinnati as well. So once again, more rain, and this area is really concerned with the flooding that we've seen as well. It's an inundation of rain. The ground is saturated already. Now we bring in all these storms. So we'll have to see the severe potential with these. But on Monday, you can see still Pittsburgh. And then on Sunday, the potential for these impacts here, Kansas City, damaging winds in Wichita and Oklahoma City, spotty hail, similar to what we saw today. It doesn't look, though, as though we'll see the biggest tornado potential, but we'll still have to see. Watch this. This still is days away. Well, we continue our coverage right after the break. Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Well, courtesy of Duxter 1964, you can see, thank you so much for sharing this with us. It began here. It really seems like this was part of the genesis of it in Franklin Grove, Illinois. Again, that's what the tornado looked like originally. Maybe this was about 6:30 or so this evening. And then, of course, we saw it really move and become this massive wedge tornado, and certainly has proven deadly at this point. And then from Franklin Grove, it goes to Ashton, Illinois, and you can see it kind of getting its act together, and look at the momentum on that, and look at the damage even in the foreground. You can see all the power lines and the tree lines down as well. And then from Ashton to Rochelle, which we have seen such damage and destruction as well. So it really has just been such a scary day. This, of course, from our storm chaser, we were watching this massive wedge tornado live on the air, and you can see what it looks like. And this is I-39 looking towards you, and you can see these cars just still coming, going back and forth as this massive tornado continues to move. Moved about northeast, about 45 miles per hour. So from Franklin Grove to Ashton to Rochelle, and then to Fairdale, Illinois, which we certainly have seen some damage and destruction. Look at this. This is, we toured the path, and these are the pictures that we've gotten from it. You could see the rubble all around, and even, of course, one fatality here, and certainly numerous homes. We have a report from one of the police departments saying that of the 50 structures in the town, most all of them damaged or destroyed, and you can certainly see. So was it an EF2, an EF3? Well, tomorrow we'll know. National Weather Service goes out, assesses all the damage. Potentially, maybe Dr. Greg Forbes was saying with this wedge tornado, 50-mile path, look at this thing. And they'll look at the worst destruction, and then that's how they will label it, whether it is an EF3 or an EF4, based on the destruction and the damage that was caused because of the tornado. So a really scary night, no question about it. It looks as though it kind of peaked in the severity, and now things have become much quieter. But where will we go tomorrow and the days ahead with the severe weather as well? Let's get an update from Alex.
I helped them as much as I could. I asked them, you know, if there was other people near them or if they had family members that were hurt. And then I just went from one person that was yelling to the next.
And what were they yelling? Were they asking to help?
For help.
Get other people out, to get their animals out?
Yep, animals, family members, all of it.
Unfortunately, you saw something you didn't want to see at least a couple times.
I found a deceased lady and her husband. I helped him, and yeah, it was devastating.
Tough to hear that, no doubt about it. The good news, at least at this hour, really seeing that severe threat. We've sort of come down from that peak that we hit earlier this evening, but we still have some storms out there. In fact, here we are around Indianapolis. A lot of storms finally now moving their way on through. Some downpours and a bit of lightning to contend with that as it's tracking its way now on off towards the east. Look at all that lightning showing up right now. In fact, the number of strikes totaling more than 1,200. Wow. So dangerous, no doubt about it, even though we don't have any severe warnings lightning is an issue here along with the heavy rain. South of that we head, and that's where we actually do see a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings that are in place. So we track our way down around Evansville. There you can see it. Severe thunderstorm warning that is in place right now, right along Interstate 64. Watching out for damaging winds, hail. That'd be the bigger threat. Gibson, Pike, and Warwick counties until 12:15 local time. Heads up. Alexandra?
All right, so Alex is just showing you the current radar, but where will these go throughout the day as we head toward Friday? And look, take a look. Now, it doesn't appear that tornadoes will be the biggest threat. Today, tomorrow, of course, Friday. You know, it certainly seems as though hail and some very strong winds are possible. And you can see, of course, from the Corpus Christi to Baton Rouge and New Orleans and Mobile, spotty hail and some very strong damaging winds, again, as we head through Friday. So, you know, tornadoes are not out of the question tomorrow, but it certainly doesn't look like kind of the dynamics atmospherically are there to see what we saw tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't want to let you put that guard down,
Right.
but again, the threat does diminish a bit in terms of the tornado risk, but damaging winds, they can be in excess of 60, 70 miles per hour.
Right.
They can be, as it's in the word, damaging. So got to be very vigilant and know what is happening, keep abreast of the weather situation. Of course, we're going to be here tracking it all as we work our way on through the end of this week, our Friday.
All right, well, our coverage of this tornado outbreak continues throughout the night. We're going to keep you updated as these severe storms with the warnings and the flash flood warnings as they continue to come in.
And of course, you want to make sure you tune in for Wake Up with Al. That's going to be starting an hour earlier at 4 a.m. Of course, getting a follow-up on what is taking place there across northern Illinois. We'll get a little bit more update on the damage as well as any people who were missing, maybe accounted for now, any fatalities. We'll get that latest information out to you.
All right, thank you so much for staying with us tonight. Our job is to keep you safe, and we've certainly done that tonight with the tornado warnings that we've seen. Massive tornado in northern Illinois about 7 o'clock local time. This, one of the hardest hit areas, Alex, right? Rochelle, Illinois.
Absolutely.